Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks pregame show live from the Xfinity Loft. I am Jay Zawaski with Mario Tirabassi. Chloe Thiel is here running the show. Hawks and Sharks drop the puck at the top of the hour. One last road game, one last late night game. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's we've said it a couple of times over these last few games. They close out the season with matchups against teams that have lots to play for.
Yep.
So it should be fun. Sharks are going to be pushing because they need to get into the playoffs, and Blackhawks have probably a little extra juice for this one because
I hope so.
You know, the two teams have been compared. A lot of the players have been compared to each other, and as much as they say, like, oh, we don't really pay attention, they hear it.
They know.
They hear it. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, people seem to forget the 6-3 win the Hawks had over them a little bit ago. But, hey, it should be fun. And this is one of these, if they are feeling a little bit frustrated with the narrative about one team versus the other, this would go a long way in silencing that, because if the Sharks get 2 points here, they are tied in terms of points for the final wild card spot in the West. They have 79 right now. The Predators have 81, and they hold the final wild card spot. So they're right there in the conversation. So just like you beat the Kraken the other night, you beat the Sharks tonight, and you're hurting their playoff chances big time, and that's a good way to send a message.
Well, and the Jets currently going into the second intermission are leading their game, so they're at 78 points currently. And then the Predators, as you just mentioned, they're the second wildcard team. They have 81 points. So do the Kings, who are on the outside looking in, have 81 points. Those two teams are playing each other tonight, so someone has to win that game to get to 83 points. So the Sharks desperately need these 2 points to keep pace and try and keep their playoff hopes alive, because all those other teams are nipping at it too. So,
and while we're talking about Hawks and Sharks, we should remind you that a handful of tickets remain for our final takeover of the year. It is the Hawks season finale, which is against the San Jose Sharks.
At home.
April 15th at the UC, 100 level tickets, and you're going to get to come back here for our final postgame show of the year. Watch us do the show live. Hang out with us here in our CHGO studios. So head over to our events page at allchgo.com.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and become a diehard so you can save on that event and get some merch on your way. All right, why don't we hear from Jeff Blashill? A little bit of news in this here press conference, and hopefully by the time Jeff speaks, we will have the full lineup for tonight's game against the Sharks. This is courtesy of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Hi, Coach.
How are you?
Morning.
Morning.
How was practice today?
We'll see tonight.
Good answer.
Looked like Mangiapane was off earlier. Is he available?
He's available.
It looked like Burakovsky was on late. Is he scratched tonight?
He's available.
Okay.
You guys pretty much ended Seattle's season on Saturday night. You have a chance to deliver a body blow here to San Jose. Does that factor in? We always talk about playing a spoiler. Is there a real energy behind that?
Not for me, not for our team. I don't think in terms of spoiler. I think where there is energy is us continuing to get better as a hockey team, making sure that we know that these games are really important. This is a team that ultimately is a young team similar to us, and we want to gain ground in the future in the standings in the West, and so do they. So, to me, that should be a super competitive game.
We've talked about this a little bit, but do you feel closer to them than maybe the standings indicate because of the overtime records? Do you feel like you're not far off from where this team is? For
sure. I mean, you look at, you go through a lot of the teams in the West. You compare overtime records, you compare records and shootouts. Ours hasn't been good enough, and some of these teams have gained a lot of ground that way, and that makes a huge difference in points. I know where we've been at. We obviously suffered a couple critical injuries in the middle of the year when I think we were in a really good spot. We weren't able to kind of, keep our head above water in those moments. So whatever, you go through it. But we've been involved in tons of games that we had opportunities to win, and we haven't won enough of them. But that is also, for me, part of the growth process of an extraordinarily young team. And so we'll continue to go out, including tonight, and try to take those steps forward. Again, every step forward we take this year, it means that's one less we have to take a year from now. And every step backwards we take this year, then that means we've got to take that many more next year. You know what I mean? So let's take as many steps forward as we can.
Frank Nazar said a lot, the focus on the team in the last part of years, focusing on the process. You guys have had extended stretches of success this year compared to, last couple of years. I know you haven't been there, but just what about the process do you focus on and want to see most growth in?
Well, I think first thing we've tried to do is establish a standard and establish culture, and I think we've done a good job of that personally. The second part would be, from a process standpoint, is learning how to play winning hockey, which I would say starts with checking for your chances, not cheating for your chances. It's probably the easiest way to say it, and so that's kind of been one of the biggest focuses we've had all year. I think our guys have understood that. We haven't always been perfect at it. We've shown it when we haven't done it right, and then we've hopefully gotten better at it through the course of the year.
Korchinski said he was thinking about staying in Chicago more this summer just to feel the city and get more time working with Brian Keane maybe, and that he felt like that worked well for Kaiser last summer going into this year. You feel like that's a good idea for him? I
think for any of our players that want real focused attention, we have unreal resources in Chicago, and so for any of our players, especially specifically probably our young players, there's a lot of good skating coaches, there's a lot of good skills coaches, there's a lot of good strength coaches, but we have a real narrowed focus of what we want each guy to be better at. So that's certainly always a positive thing. We certainly can't tell guys that, nor should we. Like they have to make the decisions that I'm a big believer in treating people as grown-ups. They make decisions, and then they live with those decisions. And sometimes you can go somewhere else and have a great summer. Obviously Connor's done that. So it doesn't mean it's the only way, but certainly it's. I think we have great resources in Chicago.
For you personally, now that we're last road game of the year, last couple weeks of the year, do you feel like you've learned anything this season, just as a coach, in terms of just progressing in terms of your own skill set and that sort of thing?
I would say two things. One, honestly, I'm in the we're still focused day to day here and trying to win games. So I haven't spent a long time thinking about stuff like that. Two, if I'm not,
that'd be the
yeah,
answer.
I know, but that's just reality. Two, if I haven't learned something, then shame on me. I better, I've said that tons. Like I think you should be trying to grow. Every day. It doesn't mean searching for answers. It just means you're trying to, evaluate decisions, and we've done that every day throughout the course of the year. We've looked at what we've done as a coaching staff. I've looked at what I've done as a coach, and you evaluate it, and you make it tweaks if you need to, and you continue to grow.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, that is Blackhawks head coach Jeff Blashill, courtesy of the Blackhawks. And through the magic of podcasting, we have the lineups for tonight's game. So listen up. This is important. And hit the like button, because I didn't tell you to do that yet. Bedard centering Teravainen and Lardis. Frondell centering Bertuzzi and Mikheyev. Nazar with Green and Donato. Boisvert with Mangiapane and Slaggerts. Someone is missing. Kaiser, Crevier, Vlasic, Renzel, Korchinski, Del Mastro. Spencer Knight gets a start in goal. So for the first time, Andre Burakovsky is a healthy scratch.
I'm not surprised. I think if Mangiapane would have been able to play the game against the Oilers, which I'm sure he really wanted to, just wasn't ready to do it, this would have happened again in that game. And Burakovsky didn't have a game that allowed you to, be able to outplay that. Same thing against the Kraken. Didn't have a game to where he was able to be a difference maker and figure it out.
Yeah,
it's been overdue. We've gone over the stats, we've gone over the turnovers, we've gone over all that stuff. Just the original demotion pre-Olympic break, and then coming out of the Olympic break, and he was back on the top line. I still don't know how to make sense of that. I understand Jeff Blashill was trying to push the right buttons, and the button he pushed for Burakovsky was betting on him playing himself out of whatever has caused him to play the way that he has basically since December, and it never turned a corner. So the next card you had to play was sitting him down, And he got sat down for a portion of the Kraken game, didn't play a lot, and now he's going to sit for a whole game. See if it's the rest of the year. Who knows? But it's time. It was time.
Yeah, it's beyond time, and you hate to celebrate someone who is struggling, but I think this is so long overdue, and I think if you got Andre Burakovsky in a private conversation, he might admit too that he's surprised it took this long for him to sit, because nothing he's been doing has been working. And Jeff Blashill said the other day, like, he's trying to do the right things. He goes out there and it just feels like nothing is going right for him, and then those things sort of compound on themselves, and they snowball, and it never has recovered for him. And at this point, Mangiapane's back, so finally you can justify putting someone else in the lineup for him and let him sit. And look, maybe it's a one-game thing, maybe it's a couple games, I don't know, but it's long overdue. And look, I hope they can, short of him being bought out in the offseason, you're not going to trade him. He's got zero trade value right now.
No.
So you're either going to buy him out or bring him back, and you hope he can, whatever they go through this offseason, he can figure it out and get somewhat close to what he was in the beginning of this year, because it's so crazy that he was off to such a good start, and then all of a sudden it just completely falls off, like off a cliff. Just completely off a cliff. And I know there was the concussion, and I know there was the birth of the child and all those things, so some off-the-ice stuff he had to deal with, but you went from very effective, probably second or third behind Bedard and Bertuzzi in terms of effectiveness.
Yeah.
And then it's just 3 points in his last 31 games or something like that? Something insane. Yeah. And it's almost like you're on the ice for that much. You think a couple pucks are going to hit you and go in. Mm-hmm. Or you're just going to luck into a secondary assist on an empty netter or something. But 3 points in 31 games, that's crazy. To be slumping like that is almost unheard of.
Yeah, and you knew he was feeling it, because when he scored, I forget what game it was, but a couple of games ago he scored and was just like, oh my God. Like, you could see how much it was weighing on him. But, it's like you said, like, I don't want to cheer him getting scratched, because when he was playing well, this team was doing better. Connor Bedard was at a higher level of play when Andre Burakovsky was producing and playing effectively, and everyone was cool with him being on the top line, because he was playing up to that level, and then it just fell off. So I hope that whatever happens this offseason, if he's back, there's going to be more competition for spots next year. And just because you're making X amount of dollars and have, you got 2 Stanley Cups on your resume and you've had really good seasons in your past, it's a what have you done for me lately type of league, and sports always go that way. If you underperform, get hurt, whatever it is, your spot can be up for grabs. And especially with the Blackhawks, their direction is going forward in the future, and Andre Burakovsky doesn't factor into the future.
No,
like
even if he's back next year,
like a guy like Frondell or Kanserov or whoever, pick your young player, they factor into the future way more. So if that player is more deserving of a spot, they're going to get it, because that's the page that's being turned going into next season. So if he's in training camp, he's in a battle for a roster spot, because all the guys that are here now, they are the guys that are going to be in those battles next season, and they're what matters moving forward.
The majestic American Woodcock says, Bedard turned Kurashev into a top-line performer. To be that bad on his wing makes Burakovsky a clear buyout to me. The only way I see him not getting bought out is because the cap is going up and they're going to have to hit the floor. Bedard will have his new deal next year, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Nazar's new thing kicks in. Mm-hmm. But I think Kyle Davidson and everyone will just be happy to be like, you know what? Thank you. Sorry it didn't work out here. Go find a deal for yourself. Enjoy your money. Go find a spot on one of the 31 other teams in the league, and someone will take a shot on Andre Burakovsky. Mm-hmm. He will find work in the NHL somewhere, and maybe he finds it somewhere else. But like Woodcock said, if you can't find it with Connor Bedard, given every opportunity over and over, night after night,
Right.
who's it going to work with?
Yeah, you'd think that even just playing with him would have pulled him out of it. It just wasn't working. Looking at next season's salary cap floor is $70.6 million. Currently projected for next season for the Hawks on the books, according to Puckpedia, is $63.7 million, and that's without Bedard.
That's without Bedard's new deal.
Trying to think who else. Korchinski will have a new deal. I know that's not the same.
Matthew Nyes, Jason Robertson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Austin Matthews.
So, and I mean, yeah, that's factoring in
Nathan McKinnon.
Burakovsky on the books at his full cap hit.
Yeah.
But I don't think you necessarily worry about the floor, because even just, I mean, Bedard's new deal is going to be what, 11 or 12 at minimum.
Yeah, I think 12 at the bottom end.
So, I mean, you add that to what you have right now projected in the next season, you're at 75. I don't think reaching the floor is going to be as big of a issue as it has been in the past, or at least the having to play the chess to make it work. I don't think you're going to need to do that. They got the Ryan Ellis contract at the trade deadline, or leading up to the trade deadline, because they know Shea Weber's is going off, so they figured that out.
We need that veteran experience.
Yes, you do.
I just don't want him here because I don't want the temptation for Blashill.
Right.
I don't even want the option to exist. And like I said, maybe he goes and signs in Detroit next year and has a really good year. Fine. Good luck. I'm not going to hold it against you if you have a good year. But it just is not going to happen here. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and looking at how Kyle Davidson operated at the deadline, moving all those veterans out so that young players would have the roster spots to move in, I'm sure he didn't foresee potentially moving out Andre Burakovsky before his contract ended. But if he's looking at that and saying, well, maybe that's an extra roster spot that could, what's Burakovsky on track for, or probably finishing with this season as far as points? He got 34, as I'm looking it up here. 32 points. Could you get 35 points out of playing Nick Lardis consistently next season?
Yes.
Out of playing Oliver Moore consistently next season?
100%.
Kanzerov. Who else would even? You're gonna have a full year of Frondell. Like, you can make up that production by having a young player, and
easily, yes.
You like giving a young player a full season run. I think you can find a guy to be 21 or 22 years old and give you that production, rather than a guy who doesn't factor into the future and is going to fill up that spot. So, I'm again, I don't want to root for a guy to get bought out or to get benched or anything like that. Because Blashill's talked about it. Darren Pang talked about it on the broadcast the last game. And Pang's been one that has, on the air, criticized Burakovsky's plays and his decision-making. And he said, I talked to him, and he doesn't need to be told that he's playing bad. He knows.
Yes. And
he's trying to work it out. So, that's part of, just being a professional athlete is, when you're fighting it, you try and claw your way out of it. And sometimes it works. Sometimes you sink further into the hole. You're supposed to dig upwards, not down.
Dig up, dummy.
I think this team was better when he was good. If he's back on the team next year, hopefully the offseason gives him a reset and he can be even a fraction of the guy he was at the beginning of the year is beneficial to this team. But that remains to be seen. And also, Mikheyev could be brought back next year. I know that's a spot right now that Burakovsky was playing with, but it's just if you bring back Mikheyev, you solidify a spot for him. That's one less opportunity for Burakovsky if he is around in training camp that you're looking forward to next year. He might think is available, but if you bring him back, it's not.
Darren Pang is one of hockey's best analysts, but he always finds a way to be critical in a subtle way. He has not been subtle about Burakovsky. He's not been. He's just like, that can't happen. That's a play you can't make. Mm-hmm. That's a 0% chance of that play working. When you hear Panger at his wit's end on a broadcast, you know it's bad.
And that's just what he's saying on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
And you never know when a hot mic just might pop up on CHSN. They might come back from break and no one knows.
Yeah, you never know.
It's happened a few times.
Yeah, he's a very optimistic person, Darren Pang. He's a very upbeat person.
Yep.
He will try and make even Burakovsky's play this season sound better than it actually was. But yeah, when he gets honest and critical, that's when it's like Quenneville back in the day.
More.
He wouldn't MF a guy in a press conference, but with so few words,
we need more.
You'd get the same kind of vibe from it. So yeah, I'm excited to. What I am excited for is to see Andrew Mangiapane back in the lineup because when he was in the lineup and playing, and Jeff Blashill's alluded to it, he is a North player. It doesn't even say North and South. He is a North player. And this team needs guys like that. And he's not the biggest guy out there, but he's definitely someone who's not afraid to get into corners, get into the net front, and he's a guy that's he's on the books for next year, and he'll be fighting for a spot in training camp.
100%. That's a guy looking for an opportunity to get a second chance in Chicago, and I think they're going to give it to him. I mean, you like what you've seen so far. It's unfortunate that he got hurt and has missed so many games because it feels like, what do you only play, like 3 or 4 games or something like that? And I almost forgot he existed. Mm-hmm. Until, when I saw him on the ice the other day at practice, like, Mangiapane.
Well, it's like he got hurt, and then like Frondell showed up, and you kind of just forgot.
Everything just forgot. and if he could be a factor next year, that's another shot against Burakovsky because, like you're saying, another roster spot taken. Mm-hmm. But I want to see what he can do. I also, just kind of going back to Jeff Blashill's pregame presser, like real business-like. Wasn't really in the mood for joking around, wasn't really in the mood for reminiscing or looking ahead to next year. Yeah. Very, very focused on this game, and I'm hoping that intensity that I detected from him is matched by the team tonight. Because, like you said, there's something very satisfying about playing spoiler. Mm-hmm. And I hope they take this opportunity to do it. We have a super chat I want to get to. I think it is from our buddy Madhouse Meek. It's Windy City Hockey. Sorry. Says, extend Mikheyev, Comesso, Korchinski, and Bedard, and buy out Burakovsky. Cut the losses, and you shouldn't have to worry about getting to the floor. Yeah, I mean, I think the Comesso, Korchinski deals are going to be pretty low. I don't see a massive pay raise for either of those guys.
I mean, if you extend those 4 players,
Bedard's going to do it on his own.
Right. Even if you're buying out Burakovsky, you're at the floor.
But
above it.
I think Mikheyev, from what kind of you read the tea leaves, the holdup with his contract is he wants more term than the Hawks are probably willing to give. Mm-hmm. So I think if the Hawks really want him, they're probably going to have to go, maybe instead of 2, they go 3, and there's an extra $1.5 million on there for Mikheyev to sweeten it for him. Mm-hmm. Because I think he's looking at this as his last opportunity for long-term security. But if the Hawks are going to be able to pay him more than other teams might be able to, then maybe that would convince him to stay.
Yeah, I wonder about how long-term of security he wants. Because if they're off by a year, that's one thing. But if he's like you're saying, like this is probably the last time I'm going to be able to try and cash in on a deal. He is, 31, 30? I mean, they might be saying 2 years, and he might be saying 5.
Actually, he'll be 32 when the season begins next year.
Okay, yeah. So
October 10th is his birthday.
Same as my wife. Nope, wife. Just kidding. That's our dating anniversary. Ooh, birthday is October 8th.
Edit that out, Chloe.
Ooh, birthday is October 8th. Well, when those 2 things are right next to each other,
I know.
Like,
sure.
flip flop. I do it with my daughter's birthday too, because her birthday is October 20th, 2021. So it's always written out 10/20/21.
Oh yeah.
But then I always think like, wait, 21, like.
My daughter's birthday is 2 days away from my anniversary.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
Yes. May 22nd, May 24th.
Yeah. Anyways, what were we talking about? Mikheyev.
Ilya Mikheyev.
Like he might be saying like 5 years, and the Hawks are like, we're not going to do that.
I don't know if I want to give him 5 years either.
I
love the guy, but I
don't think I would.
Yeah, I mean, so much of his game is built on speed.
That's a like. I don't want to. It's not. He's not a boat anchor.
No.
To the. If you sign him at 5 years, like you're kind of locking him into being like one of your guys for the rest of his career, basically. And you feel like you project out, like, could a guy like AJ Blashill benefit from having Mikheyev's spot in 2 years?
Yeah.
Or Vanacker, or, you know, go down the lineup of the future prospects you have. And so if you lock that guy in for 3 extra years, you kind of have to think about the puzzle of like where are all these guys going to fit in if they warrant being in, which I think Kyle Davidson's banking that a lot of them are.
Yeah, I mean, you know that Kyle Davidson is not a GM that looks at the year in front of his face like Stan Bowman.
Just the year in front
he
of
is
his
a
face.
3-4 years ahead, what's coming, and I think that's annoyed a lot of people because people want immediate satisfaction, and I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's looking at it like, well, Frondell's coming and Kansarov's coming. I'm not going to go give up a bunch of assets to get like a middle 6 guy just to scratch the itch when they could potentially be taking a spot away from these guys or creating a roster jam that we don't really want. Now, if there's a true difference maker out there, he said he'll go after it. We've heard the rumors. We'll see. But he is a guy that does look ahead at years, and it would suck to lose Ilya Mikheyev. And someone in the chat said AJ Blashill can have 32 points. Don't worry about the points for Mikheyev. The thing with Mikheyev is the penalty killing. There's a reason you've got the top penalty kill in the league. It's because of Ilya Mikheyev.
The way he plays and impacts the game defensively, the compete level, you know, the physicality he plays with, because like he plays fast and physical and can spring a breakaway at 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill. Like it's a very niche skill set, but when you have a guy that does it really well, you really see the impact of it.
He is a guy on a team that is minus 53 in goals. The Hawks are, and he's a -2. And he's consistently drawing the toughest defensive matchups for the team.
Yeah.
Plus minus is not impacted by penalty kill, but for a guy to be primarily deployed as a defender of the best matchup to be a -2 on this team, that is significant. So don't worry so much about points. He just has this ability and this knack for defending. And that is, it's not sexy, but it is incredibly valuable. And we talk a lot about these 1-goal games, right? And, well, you got to get a scorer so they can win these 1-goal games. Well, if you lose a guy like Mikheyev, too, it could be working the other way, where you're giving up an extra goal every game. Not every game. He's not saving 82 games a year, of course. You know what I'm saying? But, like...
Yeah, the defensive impact.
The defensive impact is just as important as the offensive. So he's an important thing. I'd give him good money for short term. Ideally, 2 years, maybe 3, and then go from there. But I don't know if I'm going beyond 3 for him. As much as I love the guy,
I don't think I would.
I don't think I'm going beyond 3.
I don't think I would. I think you have guys that project out to play a similar role like that. But obviously projections and hopes and dreams are always great. But, yeah, I think if you're looking at the group coming up and, you know, the prospects turning over into actual NHL players and developing their game and growing and everything like that, I think you're probably banking that one of them is going to be someone who can play the same kind of role as Ilya Mikheyev and do it effectively.
All right, we're going to wrap things up. Make sure you are here on the postgame show. By the way, we got a ton of people watching, not a ton of likes. Hit that like button. If you're excited about Andre Burakovsky being scratched, hit that like button. 231 people watching, 63 likes. That's not right. Hit that button for us. We'd appreciate that big time. And remember, as soon as the game ends, you can join us for the postgame show. And while you're waiting for the game to start, why not grab those tickets to our final takeover of the year, April 15th, 100 level versus the Sharks. It'll be a good time. AllCHGO.com. Talk to you as soon as Hawks and Sharks wrap up on CHGO Blackhawks.
We all city like the mayor.